I want to introduce you to Reed Reset, and I'm really excited for his talk here. And he's calling in from Baltimore, Maryland. He is an organizational change management consultant and COO of agileXtended, which was founded in 2017. He's presenting synchronized surfing and how to keep your company from being crushed by technological tidal wave. Reed's background, more than 20 years of experience leading teams and managing initiatives in federal, corporate, nonprofit, and military environments. His passion is helping teams, executives, and companies achieve higher levels of performance through culture and behavior changes. His clients are mostly in North America, and but they do work outside of North America. And outside of work, Reed likes to do what I think we all like to do is drink, but he's the professional bartender. So after the conference, we're all going to Reed's, and he's going to make us some great cocktails. Take it away, Reed.
So welcome. Thank you for joining, everybody. Just want to start off by asking, why synchronized surfing? Why do we want to call this this part of the discussion synchronized surfing? The reason is, AI, new technology, transformations are great. They're radical. They're even tubular, you might say, right? There's a lot of valuable applications that you can use right now, and that's great. But teams are made of real people, not artificial people. And if you're amped up to explore AI solutions to your business problems, you got to remember that even a small change in technology is going to cause ripples in your organization. A transformation like AI is more like a tidal wave. Surfing on that wave is hard. It's hard as an individual. But at the organizational level, it's going to require synchronized surfing. So I'm going to try and work in some more surfing metaphors as we go here. Just like synchronized swimming, it's not enough that one person on your team can surf. In synchronized surfing, you might be a 5-time king or queen of the beach, but what if your team can't surf? And how do you even know? In a big transformation, you want to be on your wave, riding the wave, and then find out everyone else is still on shore or waiting around on the boards, and they're not with you. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a technology transformation or some other major organizational shift. Most transformations fail. Okay, according to Harvard Business Review, about 85%, 87% of transformations fail to meet their objectives. And their study, and there's another one from Forbes that says pretty much the same thing. They give us some insight into why changes fail. And it's not because the technology doesn't work. More often than not, it's because of poor human skills. Things like failures to communicate and collaborate. People are not getting their plans aligned with the body of work within the organization and the organizational strategy. They're failing to prepare the staff for the upcoming changes. So if you want to build a transformative culture, you can do that and improve the number of or the likelihood of your transformation to succeed. There's a real return on investment in doing that and investing in culture change. You can improve your levels of trust and engagement by 30 or 40 or 50%, as we've done. You get more successful programs, fewer abandoned transformations. You can have things fail here and there, and then you right them and you move forward. Even that's okay. You don't want to be in a situation where you're abandoning some work that you've been spending a lot of time and money on. So like Jim said, my name's Reed. I work in organizational culture change. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for agileXtended. We specialize in taking a cognitive approach to organizational culture change. What's that mean? We help our customers prepare for and navigate changes in process, changes in strategy, changes in culture. We use some techniques that we developed ourselves, some others we've learned over the years, things like co-creation, like gamification, to improve your team engagement and team performance. And we overcome a lot of very common problems, but very difficult problems by improving alignment and improving collaboration and communication within the teams. So we joined EIG because we're good at what we do, but we're not experts at everything. The team at EIG lets us bring together experts in other fields, like Hosni from Creatisoft and Paul from Excellence and Jackie from 7-Star HR. So we can focus on our strengths and the customers still get everything they need. So I want to share 4 key points about culture change today. First is you can, and you probably should, change how you change. You can do this by leading with trust and collaboration and empathy. Number 2 is a cognitive approach. I mentioned before, you don't even know a lot of the time if everyone's on board with the change or when you're synchronized surfing. Well, when you can recognize the reality of your situation, when you can understand the people and their challenges and the systems they're working in, that's both the IT systems and the organizational systems that they're working in, then you can leverage that understanding and create a better path forward. Number 3 is human skills are probably more important. They're at least as important as tech skills, probably more important. Good news is you can develop better human skills through a time-boxed iterative process. And key point 4, that process, we use a process called Compass. It's the Compass for Agility, and it's a proven and effective approach to building trust and enabling change in any organization. And we'll get to that in a minute, but let me emphasize, human skills are important even during times of stability, right? They're very critical during transformative times. And none of us here on this webinar are probably expecting extended periods of stability. Changes that are more complex require a higher level of human skills. So, transformations like AI adoption or migrations to the cloud, those are more complex transformations. And so those will require a higher level of human skills. So simple poll, just a 1-letter answer. You could put in the Q&A on the screen. Based on your experience, have we ever seen anything like the AI tidal wave that we're seeing right now? Just give it a minute. Or you put a couple words in there if you want. All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, yes and no is the answer. Not really a trick question, just a multifaceted question. Yes and no. We've seen major disruptive changes before, and people freak out a little bit each time. You can go back into the 1850s, and people were saying, oh my gosh, the telegraph, this is going to change everything. Go back 20, 30 years ago, the web, it's going to change everything, right? The smartphone. All these things did kind of change everything. And when that happened, some companies adapted and moved forward and embraced the change, and some failed to do that, and they died. But we've never seen it like this before. And what I mean by that is we've never seen change at this magnitude or this pace. The planned rate of adoption for newer technology is faster. It's a lot of the mid-sized companies out there today are still struggling getting their websites up. They're still trying to get their mobile sites working and manage social media accounts. And those were big changes. But now you've got 75% of Fortune 500 companies using AI and machine learning for product development. 78% see AI as a revenue generator. So we're not talking about developing the next big thing. We're talking about using the current new thing, and companies are doing that, and they're achieving positive ROI now. Some are doing it better than others. But if you compare this to other big trends, cloud and mobile and big data, recent changes like AI have leapfrogged them. So you probably already know this, and executives see this and they worry about missing out. They want to move forward now. And why wouldn't they, right? They need their competitive advantage. But to do that, you need preparation. Part of the preparation is figuring out how to use AI to your advantage, make you more competitive, leaner. The other part is to prepare your people so they understand what's going on, where they're going, and what their role is, because people in these situations are going to be scared. Why are they afraid? Well, again, any tech change is a disruptive change, and it can cause a perceived or real threat to things like job security, company longevity, competitiveness, so on. So people are going to be worried about job security, skill obsolescence, perceptions among their team, trust, those sort of things. We can help with a lot of these, and we can alleviate a lot of these fears. Right now, some people are going to be worried about things like rise of the machines or whatever. We can't do anything about that, but we can help with a lot of the more common challenges and fears that people have, things like job security and skill obsolescence. And to be honest, I think people do have a pretty good reason to be concerned. I don't want everybody to be afraid. But who in your organization could be affected by a big shift in technology, a big transformation? Well, the answer is probably just about everybody. Looking at current trends in AI, machine learning, data science, looking at the capabilities out there and what's happening in the market, I don't think it's unreasonable for anybody to be concerned. And what happens when people are scared? Well, a lot of things happen when people are scared. And some of these things happen, people get scared about some of these things when everything's going well. But the stress of a major change is going to exacerbate these things. And an unsafe environment that's created by fear and response to fear is going to slow you down. What can happen? Things like the yes man syndrome, right? Syncopancy. People are afraid to say something to contradict their managers, so they just go along with ideas even when they're bad. You get infighting, you get loss of trust, you get self-preservation, and probably the worst thing is you get turnover. Turnover is costly. Turnover is expensive even when it's easy to hire people because people aren't fungible. But during tough hiring times, it's even more expensive. And so looking at these symptoms, looking at these things that happen when people are afraid, you can see how fear could affect your culture and your level of collaboration and the level of innovation within your company. Most people, when they're afraid, find it easier not to speak up. They just agree with the boss. They stay quiet. You don't want this. You don't want this. Okay, so what's the point? Point is, one, you can't stop disruptive change, and you shouldn't want to. Number two is you can use disruptive changes to your advantage, and if you don't, your competitors will. Number three, you can't really predict the direction of technology. You might have a pretty good idea. You might go out on a limb and say things are going to get faster. You know, more data is going to be moved faster and more efficiently. AI will get smarter. Okay, those are really bold predictions. But the next big thing is going to be harder to predict. And number four, you won't predict how people are going to respond to and use the new technology. You know, the Jetsons had Zoom back in the 70s. All these things were predictable. Nobody predicted that there'd be an 8-year-old on YouTube making $500,000 a month, making videos of themselves unboxing toys, right? Nobody would have predicted that a 19-year-old TikTok content creator would out-earn the CEO of McDonald's by making dance videos at 30 seconds each. But that happened. So this is the point. You can't predict how people are going to respond to new technology. You can help your people prepare and your business prepare for changes that are coming and help them thrive during times of change. Okay. All right. How do we do that? How do we prepare? I'm going to tell you about four keys to preparing your culture and for managing change. These are going to work for tech changes such as cloud migrations. They're going to work for AI adoption. They'll also work for non-tech things like mergers and acquisitions, reorganizations, rolling out new product lines. I mentioned earlier that most changes fail. Okay, that's accurate. Also, that failure is not necessarily bad as long as you can fail fast and fail forward. So we've developed an approach and several tools and techniques that can help you lead successful changes. These keys to success, in the time I have left in this presentation, I'll show you these four human-oriented success factors you can use to help create the culture you need to get everyone surfing on the same wave, at least surfing the same ocean at about the same time. We'll show you how these factors can help increase your ROI. They can help decrease turnover and create better teams and happier customers. And afterwards, I'd love to have your thoughts on them. So success factor one is trust. Everything starts with trust. Sounds pretty simple because you wouldn't follow someone you don't trust. But even if we know that a culture of trust is valuable in an organization, it's still hard to create. But if you can establish trust, that's a key to creating a psychologically safe environment. People have been talking about psychological safety for a long time, many, many years. if you haven't looked into it already, if you haven't studied and learned about the effect of psychological safety on teams and on organizational performance, you can check out Google's Aristotle project. We're not going to get into that right now, but I did put a link to that in the notes in this presentation, which you'll get a copy of. I'll just say that trust has a high ROI. There's a lot of evidence behind this. A guy named Paul Zak wrote a book called The Trust Factor and the Science of High Performing Companies. And he learned that when you work on a high trust team, you produce more oxytocin. It's a chemical associated with being able to understand the emotions of others, being able to interact better with groups. It helps work feel less like work. People in high trust environments have higher levels of productivity, about half the turnover of those in low trust environments, 13% fewer sick days, and the list goes on and on. So trust can be improved, and there's value in doing that. You'll get a return on investment. Many studies have shown the same thing. So the question is, as a leader, do you even know if you and your team are trusted by the staff? And do you trust your staff? Are you trusting? Most people, when they think about this question, are going to say, yes, of course, my people trust me. They start looking deeper into the environment and their culture, and they might find reasons to maybe believe otherwise, or at least see areas for improvement. Just ask a simple question. Do you ever tell your employees that you're going to do something and then fail to follow through? If you do that enough times, every time that happens, your level of trust within the organization decreases. You can make the power of trust work for you if you commit to doing it. We developed an organizational trust formula that helps people understand the factors that add to trust, that multiply trust, or that detract from trust. So use this with our trust assessment, and we put together workshops and activities that help increase trust between teams and across business units and in the leadership itself. A quick example, we were working with a client and they were struggling with engagement, and they knew the value of employee engagement. They wanted people to more actively support the organizational mission, be more involved in creating solutions, more engaged in conversations. So we conducted a trust survey and an engagement survey. It was 100% anonymous. We got about 60% of the people in the organization to respond. The responses showed a severe lack of trust across several important areas. That's trust. About half the people, half the staff trusted senior leadership. More than half did not trust middle management. Most middle management didn't trust each other either, and many of them didn't trust senior leadership. So there were problems everywhere. You have to have trust if you want engagement. There's no magic button you can press to make it happen, but you can make it happen. It just takes work. You have to commit to improving. Fortunately, the customer understood that and they were committed. And we worked through a series of experiments and workshops, starting with things the senior leaders would need to do, behaviors they need to change to improve their culture. And we started seeing observable improvements within 3 months. After about a year, we conducted a second survey, a follow-up survey, and the results were eye-opening. About a 35% increase in the staff's trust of senior leadership, about a 25% increase in staff's trust of middle management, which is good, and amazingly, about a 50% improvement in division leaders, middle managers' trust of senior leadership. So that's excellent results. The outcomes, more engagement, which was measured by the survey and observed by looking at how many people started volunteering for things and sharing ideas and coming up with innovative innovations for new improvements. Factor number 2 is contextual awareness. And people in technology hear contextual awareness, they think a lot of the time about devices or systems, like the way your phone screen will reorient when you turn your phone. That is the machine showing contextual awareness. As people, as humans, we need contextual awareness to help us understand how people within our organizational systems, in our environments, and how the systems themselves affect our approach to specific problems. So you can't apply one uniform management technique across every situation, across every team, across every business unit. Almost never works. Any one team can have different management needs from year to year, within a year, just from problem to problem. But looking across a whole organization rather than a team, you see a huge variation in things like institutional maturity or educational norms or just team culture. So having contextual intelligence, this is what helps us adapt our knowledge so that how we apply it, we can apply it in a context that's different than the one where we acquired the knowledge, where we learned it. It's very, very similar to things you do every day. A carpenter or a therapist or an engineer will take what they learned in school or in training and what they learned in one situation, and they'll apply it differently to help clients build different things or help people in different situations, help people solve different problems. So you can do this in a transformative change. You just have to understand the people who are going to be involved in the change and who are going to be affected by the transformation. And it helps to do a little bit of time travel, right? So number one is you need to understand things that are relevant that happened in the past, even if it's a very recent past. Number two is you want to be aware of the present contextual variables. That can be things like staffing challenges. Maybe a group's been shorthanded for a while. It can also be things like internal politics. Maybe there's some people that are always resisting or always advocating for change. All these things can affect our success, so we need an awareness of that. And then we need an awareness of the preferred future state. Have we articulated what our desired outcome is? Okay, so past, present, and future. This is going to help us make the right decisions. And you're going to see more of the things that could trip you up, and you're going to see more of the things that will help you succeed. Personality assessments are interesting. There's a lot of different kinds of DISC assessment or whatever. I like them, but we can fall into some traps sometimes saying, well, I'm an ABCD personality type or whatever, so I'm going to behave this way. A lot of the bigger ones are actually even moving away from calling them personality assessments at all. They're calling them behavior assessments or whatever. And that's good, because the flaw in a lot of these old school assessments is they don't account for variances in how you show up based on context, based on your mood, the news of the day, the team you're on today, the environment, whatever. But if you can understand the context, you can adjust your behaviors appropriately. And you're not trying to change your personality. You're just changing the way you show up, being more mindful, making an effort. One of our clients' leadership was unhappy with the levels of initiative people were taking. They wanted people to be innovative and to go ahead and take the initiative and try things, take risks. So they wanted our help changing the behavior of their teams. That's fair enough. But if you look at the context, we looked at the recent past. The leadership team that had been there just a couple of years ago would openly criticize staff members and middle managers when their ideas didn't work. So, you'd hear comments like, oh, look at Mr. Smarty Pants over there, thinks he can solve every problem. That didn't work too well. That's very negative, but that's what was happening. And so people didn't feel too great about suggesting things or taking risks or trying to be innovative. So we asked the customer, what behaviors of yours do you think you can change to get the transformation you want? Now, they could have said, whoa, we need to change their behavior, not ours. But they didn't do that because they understand leaders do need to change their behaviors if they're going to drive the changes they want. And since they understood that, we could go through and work with a couple of tools we created. And one of them is called Culture Collab. It's an event that we introduce and we facilitate and eventually hand over to the customer. It helps people from across an organization understand each other's backgrounds, their influences, the work environment, as well as the external environment they came from. And this is powerful because we can share experiences like this. We also share some vulnerabilities about ourselves, and it creates a better sense of safety. There's another tool we have that we developed called Spectrix, a gamified tool. It's got a game board and it's kind of like you're in a play. And the idea is there's a 5x5 matrix of character types, and you look at the types and their traits. And the difference between these archetypes and old school personality styles is that the characters in Spectrix are defined by their behaviors, not their personalities. Because at any given time in this 25 character matrix, you could be switching from one character to another depending on your own context. So by using Spectrix, we can see we modify our own behaviors, we can communicate with, we can relate to other people on the teams, and we just show up differently, we get better results. So we introduced these things, we practiced, and the outcomes here: more transparency, better alignment, more people engaged and taking appropriate risks and trying to innovate. The third success factor is all about diversity and inclusion, right? Layered perspectives. It overlaps a little with contextual awareness, but let's look at D&I from a slightly different perspective. Transformations are multidisciplinary challenges. A multidisciplinary challenge requires multiple diverse perspectives because nobody knows everything. So we think there's some misconceptions about diversity and inclusion. People think of D&I, they associate it with one thing or another. It's not just about race or gender identity. It's more than that. What it comes down to is if you're always leaning on the same people for answers, you're always doing things the same way, you're going to miss opportunities. So it's not easy, but you can take the politics out of D&I. You know, if you recognize there's business value in diversity and inclusion, there's actually a return on investment to inclusivity, that will be way more valuable. If you look at it as a compliance exercise, you're not going to gain much from it. It's like passing a compliance test. If you pass a compliance test, that's like getting a D in a class. You passed, but did you add any value? Did you learn anything? Did you make anything better? So companies that just do D&I because it's required, they're leaving money on the table. You can use it to your advantage. How do you do that? You do it by creating an inclusive environment. This creating an inclusive environment is as much of a culture change as anything else you're going to do. The benefits of this are amazing. You do it by leading by example and making small changes and being consistent. We help clients do this by helping them define the behaviors that they want to see and then co-creating events to reinforce those behaviors. One of these events we do is called The Room Where It Happens. It's named after a scene from the Broadway show Hamilton. And it's about inviting people to be part of transformative change. In the show, people want to be in the room where it happens when they were discussing the revolution. Well, here we're inviting people to be part of that. And when people take part and people are involved, they're more likely to take ownership and help drive the change. A few years ago, we were working with a company, software development company, and we noticed during code reviews and demos, the programmers were very outspoken and the testers were pretty quiet. And this creates a problem because the testers, a lot of times, they have the user's perspective. And so you need to have that perspective. But they weren't being quiet. It might have been because the coders were talking over them. The developers maybe didn't value the opinions of the testers as much. Also, maybe coincidentally, maybe not, most of the testers were female. Most of the developers were male. So it doesn't matter why we have one group, the developers, discounting the opinions of the testers, you're going to miss real potential problems and real opportunities. Okay, number 4, the fourth success factor is the compass. We call it the compass for agility, and it's based on a book that was written by our founder. Thinking about a roadmap versus a compass. Roadmaps are great if you have a known destination, right? If you're going to follow an established route, if the start and end points you're familiar with and they're fixed points. A compass is better if you're going to uncharted territories, right? There's no fixed landmarks, and maybe the roads aren't even finished yet. This is just a bunch of metaphors, but they all fit because basically during a transformation, we know the direction we're going to go. We don't really know the route we're going to take. So, and if you're going someplace nobody's ever been, there's not going to be a road there anyway. Okay, so we like using the compass. The compass, what it is, it's we follow a 30-day cycle. It's kind of a modified plan, do, act, check, act cycle. And for each of the 5 parts of the compass, we know the direction we want to go. We don't know the route we're going to take, but we work with customers to figure it out. And there's several different levels, ideas of actions you can take for each point of the compass. And they're going to vary depending on the complexity of the problem and the amount of time you want to commit. And if you go through it once and you didn't quite get there, but you're on the right track, you follow the cycle again. It's 30-day cycles. Again, an example, we were working with a customer on a data center migration, migrating a data center to the cloud. And there were a lot of unknowns because there were so many things in the data center that were being supported, so many applications and so many different constituencies, and it hadn't been mapped out really well. And there were a lot of connections that they were just trying to figure out. So they didn't want to wait until they knew everything. So they started with knowing they had some unknowns. And the first approach, it didn't work so well, but they learned quickly and they tried again and then try. And the second approach didn't quite work right. But by the seventh, they had a nearly perfect migration. And it might sound like, oh wow, they fell down, they failed 6 times. They learned each time, and they still completed the migration on time. And that's the amazing thing to me, is that even with little failures, because they were doing short iterations, they were still recovering, learning, and then reorienting, just like you do if you're out hiking in the woods with a compass. So you can do these things. You can approach something new and unknown, call it short iterations, and use this tool to still navigate a major transformation with a high degree of success. There's no map for this kind of work, but you can keep track of your direction with the compass. So the outcomes, well, number one, they had a cloud-hosted data center. Okay, that was the goal. Also, the teams involved learned a lot about resiliency and alignment and collaboration, because they had to refocus every time, align their efforts, and work together to make the transformation happen. So a good example of a success following the compass. So a quick recap. I say catch the wave. You really can't catch a wave. You can't paddle that fast, but you can meet a wave. So you paddle where the wave is going to be. I don't know. It's a Wayne Gretzky thing. Anyway, 4 key factors: trust, contextual awareness, layered perspectives, and compass. Okay. Following and understanding these 4 factors can lead you to a successful transformation. Most organizations have the same kinds of problems. Okay. You see the same problems everywhere you go. Problems with trust, engagement, alignment, collaboration, especially collaboration across silos, across business units. These probably look familiar to you. You probably need to improve in some of these areas. If you don't think you do, you're probably not listening to the right people in your organization. You should probably have some candid conversations, engage in some introspection, and talk to people in the organization, especially people close to retirement who don't have anything to lose, and then also to some customers. You'll do better if you improve in these areas. So you have a choice. You can do nothing and leave things the way they are, or you can work on improving things. So what are you going to do? Well, what can you do? What you can do right now, today, if you want, is you can start with some low-cost tools or some no-cost tools to get some insight into how your people are doing. And so there's 7-Star HR has a burnout assessment. We have a trust assessment. There's a great book called Radical Candor, and you can use that, and you can facilitate sessions on Radical Candor, or you can hire a company like ours to help facilitate it. You can get yourself out of the echo chamber and get feedback from people who are actually doing the work, who are close to the processes that are going to change, and who are close to the customers that are going to be affected by changes. Again, a big list of resources in the appendix to this presentation you can look through. I hope they're helpful. If you're not a culture change expert and you don't have time to become one, maybe you can work with someone like us. You can start small. You have a workshop. You have a short engagement. You see the way we work, and how we can help by working with you. But I'll say this up front: nobody, not us, nobody can come in and transform your culture for you. A good organizational culture consultant can come in and help do it with you. We're happy to do it with you, help you find changes that you can make that stick and that work. We love these types of problems. We love these types of solutions, and we're good at it. So I hope this was useful. I hope you find the time valuable, and I thank you for joining, and I will stop and ask if there are any questions.
Fantastic presentation. Really enjoyed it. Learning every day. I thought I knew what change management was. Of course, I was heavily involved with it 20 years ago, but boy, has it changed. And boy, have you brought in all the new tools, new methods, new ideas, all the things I think we wanted to do back then, but we didn't have we weren't able to do it. I think this is really a different level of change. So one question that's come in is, seeing that culture, the word culture and organizational change management has kind of been worn out through a lot of executives over the years. They got burned out trying to do the old change management. I'll just call it that, the way that we used to do it, let's say. What's different from what you see from what was done, let's say 15, 20 years ago, and what you guys at agileXtended are looking to do? I mean, what's different and what brought about the change of the new tools, and how is it being received and delivered within organizations by themselves without you? A lot of questions in there.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I think I have to agree. A lot of these terms, organizational change, and even things like agile, business agility, people throw these terms around and they don't know what they mean, and it kind of dilutes things and it makes it difficult to understand. But also sometimes it becomes
Your connection, Breed, is not coming through. You seem to be frozen. Reed? We'll wait for Reed to regroup here. Having some technical problems, not able to get through, bandwidth issues. Reed? Reed, are you there? I'm going to call him. He just disconnected. See if he comes back on. Sorry, guys. I think he's reconnecting. Are you trying to reconnect, Reed?
It says my connection is restored, but I guess you can't hear me.
We can't hear you.
Okay, hang on, it's I don't know what's going on. Reconnecting to audio.
Because when it pops in, it puts you on mute, maybe.
It still says connecting to audio.
You're not showing up. Well, you're showing up there. You haven't left us on GoToMeeting, so.
I have no idea why it's doing this.
Yeah, your connection is. You can't switch to your hotspot, can you?
I just switched. I just
switched a minute ago.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
You're back.
Wow. Okay, so that was unexpected. But Jim, you were talking about the differences in how we approach now compared to 10 or 20 years ago, and there are some similarities. We want to always build on what people knew before and take advantage of some of the stuff that people have learned before. But other things that people didn't include before, there used to be a lot of top-down approach. It used to be a little less of a collaboration and more command and control. And so we've tried to move toward focusing on psychological safety, on inclusion, and on emotional intelligence, and also bringing in the co-creation aspect to get people to bring the people who are closest to the problem into the solution process, into the planning process, so that there's less fear, less discomfort, and more understanding of the change to come. And then that's been able to, for us, get us to a point where we got more successful outcomes and things that stick after we walk away from the engagement.
Excellent. Can you turn your camera on? Will that work?
Let's give it a try.
Thank you. Perfect. You're back. All right.
Maybe.
We'll see. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Yeah, I think the change management world has changed. How with AI, can you use AI to help in this process of using better tools that are more empathetic to helping understand better emotions and tone and tenor in an organization, how much that impacts the ability to deliver productivity, attitude, all those things? Are we starting to use AI to help us in those areas or other tools?
Yeah, we are, and it's getting actually better and better. There's I know people within EIG work on some of these things, that tools that recognize tone, recognize facial expressions, and a different nuance from person to person. It'll focus on how an individual looks today versus how they looked yesterday, and it can pull in a trillion different variables. So that gives you a lot more insight into a comparison of somebody's engagement now versus how they were, last week or last month.
Sure.
We're not using that right yet, but I know a lot of places have it under development. But what we're using isn't quite as sophisticated as that, but we're using a lot of AI-enabled survey tools. Things like Remesh is a good example. Remesh, it will let you run a survey and let people enter free-form text, and then it can analyze the results of the survey, including the multiple choice questions in free-form text, to group like answers and to form analyses on sentiment and on priorities across the people that are responding. And that's very helpful too, because that lets us focus on, okay, what are the top 3 most important things we need to work on, or other things like that. So there are definitely better tools being developed, and some that we're using right now that are very helpful.
Well, thank you, Reed. Thanks for your patience, and I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions because of the technical problems. So I guess the technological tidal wave overshadowed our technology.
I think my tech had a little weight bound, Jim.
Yeah, the wave came through, so we maxed it out. So we still have bandwidth issues. So we're talking about using AI, and we still can't have we still have bandwidth issues no matter what. But we're a long ways. When people sit there and say we're going to get to AI, it's like, well, don't we have to solve the World Wide Web issue first? So there are a couple constraints out there.
And just like a team, it varies from day to day. Yesterday it could have been working just great, and today not so much.
Yeah. So, but thanks for your patience, Reed, and fantastic talk. I look forward to learning more, and I'm sure others are also. You do have your document that's available to anyone. They can contact me or you directly. You can go to agileXtended website or the EIG website and send an email in, and we'll send you the deck right away. Thank you so much, Reed.